Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports and North Football video, and today I'm going over my Week 2 power rankings for the 2024 NFL season. I do power rankings on the channel every single week, so come on back next week for more power rankings. I'll be doing a predictions video tomorrow, and I may do another video or two over the week. Let me know if there's anything that you'd want to see. So with that being said, let's get right into it. First off, we have the dumpster fire. We don't have a lot of changes in the dumpster fire this week. We have the Panthers at 32, we have the Giants at 31, we have the Broncos at 30, and we have the Titans at 29. The Panthers and the Giants have stayed in the same spots as they were preseason. They both got demolished. The Panthers got demolished by the Saints. They lost by 30 points, 40 points, something like that. The Giants got crushed by the Vikings, and they made Sam Darnold look like the next coming of Tom Brady. So they're staying in the same spots. The Broncos have moved down one spot after a relatively close game against the Seattle Seahawks. It was a respectable game. And then the Tennessee Titans have gone down 2 spots for their season opener against the Bears. The Titans did have a strong start against the Bears. They were up 17-7 at some point, or 17-0. And then the Bears got 2 defensive touchdowns, and overall, the Titans had a relatively okay game, but there was just way too many mistakes, and the offense just doesn't look like it can do much. Same thing with the Broncos. Their offense looked lethargic. Bo Nix had 2 interceptions, and they just really need to make a lot of improvements before they can start winning games. Moving on, we have probably bad. We have the Raiders at 28, we have the Washington Commanders at 27, we have the Patriots at 26, and we have the Cardinals at 25. The Raiders have moved down 1 spot after their decent loss this week. It started off decent, and then it got worse and worse and worse throughout the game. The Chargers were losing at the beginning, and then they put on a very good second half, and the Raiders scored 0 points. They lost 22-10. And they looked bad. The Commanders at 27, they went down 3 spots this week. I had them up at 24 preseason, and I thought that they were going to have at least a serviceable offense. I thought that Bryce Young was going to have Jaden Daniels was going to have a good start to the season, and it just didn't work out for them. Washington had a horrendous performance. Their offense looked bad. Jaden Daniels didn't look great, and the defense got destroyed. The Patriots moved up 5 spots to number 26. They didn't do anything extremely impressive, but the Commanders, the Raiders, the Titans, and the Broncos all just disappointed for the most part. And so the Patriots moved up 5 spots. They did beat the Bengals, who I didn't expect to be an all-world team this year based on how they finished last year. But I expected them to be good. So that was an impressive win by the Patriots. I was happy with it. I thought that our offense played well in the first half. I think in the second half, our offense played horrendously. We only got 2 field goals, and that's because one of those field goals came off of field position within our own 25-yard line, and we couldn't even get a first down. So we got 2 field goals. Most of those were gimmies, and then our defense played very well the whole game. They were able to get a good number of stops, and I was very impressed with how the defense looked, but the offense just was not impressing me for the most part. It was better than last year, but we still need to score more points in order to win games. As for the Cardinals, they moved down 2 spots with their loss this week to the Buffalo Bills, but they made it close. It was a 5-point game, 34-29, and Arizona looked good. Kyler Murray looked good. For a long time, it looked like the Cardinals were going to win. Buffalo brought it back. Arizona went down the field. They were in striking distance. They just couldn't get it done. And I think that Arizona has some potential this season. I had them at 23 preseason, but I thought they would be better than that. I think that they will climb over the next couple of weeks once they start playing some easier teams, once they start getting some wins under their belt, and I think that Arizona could have a decent team this season. Moving on we have big questions. We have the Falcons at 24, we have the Vikings at 23, we have the Bears at 22, and we have the Browns at 21. The Falcons are down 7 spots this week because of their horrendous Week 1 performance. I thought that Kirk Cousins was going to look very good on this Falcons roster. They have some very talented players like Bijan Robinson coming back from last year, but their offense just didn't click yet. Kirk Cousins threw 2 interceptions, and overall they couldn't do anything on offense. The Falcons did not look good, and I expected a lot more from them from the season opener. They're down 7 spots just because I had them at 17 expecting their offense to be phenomenal. And their offense was horrendous. And it's going to happen when you're playing against good teams, but it's week 1. Teams are going to move a lot more week 1 than they're going to move any other week. Week 1's the only week that I will move a team more than 5 spots for the most part. So they're down 7, but I can expect if they start to show some more on offense over the next couple weeks, they'll move right back up. At 23, we have the Vikings. The Vikings moved up 3 spots with their win this week over the Giants. Sam Darnold looked great. They're playing against the Giants, but Sam Darnold did look great, and he does have weapons now. And so I think that this could be a brand new Sam Darnold we're seeing. I don't want to overreact because it is week 1, and they did play the Giants. So we're going to see how they play next week, but I think that 23 is a fair spot for them right now. At 22, we have the Bears. The Bears did win this week against the Titans, but the offense looked horrendous. The offense looked so bad. Caleb Williams didn't play bad, but he had, I believe, 93 yards on 29 attempts. The Bears just didn't look phenomenal. I think that they can improve. I just don't think that this win was enough for me to bump them up any spots. And I moved the Browns down 7 positions. I had them at 14 preseason. I think that was a fair spot considering how good they were last year. This year did not carry over week 1. Week 1, they got demolished by the Cowboys. Part of that is the fact that they were playing the Cowboys week 1, and the Cowboys start off at their best during week 1, and then they slowly diminish in their abilities throughout the entire season. So week 1 is the Cowboys at their very best, and they lost by 23, which is about what you expect week 1 against the Cowboys. But Deshaun Watson was horrendous. The defense was horrendous. Everything was horrendous. And next week we'll see how they do, but I think that 21 is a fair spot for them right now. Moving on to our next category, we have rising up. We have the Saints at 20, we have the Jaguars at 19, we have the Colts at 18, the Seahawks at 17, and the Chargers at 16. All of these teams rose in spots this week, even though not all of them won. The Saints had a very strong win this week against the Panthers. Again, the Panthers, not a great opponent to beat, but they won in very convincing fashion, putting up over 40 points. Their offense looked very fluid. Their defense was strong and stout. I think that 20 is a fair spot. I think that they should be above the Browns right now. I think they should be above the Bears right now. The Bears' offense couldn't do anything, and the Saints' offense looked all world. As for the Jaguars and the Colts, both of these teams lost this week, but they did move up in the power rankings. I had the Jaguars at 20 preseason, much lower than many people had them, and I had the Colts at 21. I expected both of these teams to rise up quickly because I was basing it off of their last year performance, as well as the moves that they made in the offseason. Neither of these teams made phenomenal moves in the offseason, so they stayed relatively similar to the end of last year. But they both impressed me how they played this first week of the season. The Jaguars were winning most of the game against the Dolphins, although they didn't score any points in the second half. That's the reason why the Colts were able to jump them in the positioning. Trevor Lawrence looked better than he did last season. It's only one game, but he did look better. I expect him to continue to try and get back to the form he had at the end of the 22-23 season. And overall, the Jaguars played an okay game. As for the Colts played a phenomenal game. The Colts were against the Texans. They were in it the whole time. They were winning at different points, but they were at home. They did have home field advantage, but I was very impressed by Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson had a good season last year. He's starting off phenomenally this year. I think 18 is fair for the Colts, how they played this week. And then 17 and 16, we have the Seahawks and the Chargers. These two are probably going to be around the same spot in the power rankings most of the season. They both have strong offenses. They both have mediocre defenses. And they both underperformed last season. The Chargers underperformed by more, but they also have a better quarterback. So I have them at 16 and 17. The Chargers had a rough start to the game, but they were able to pick it up. They were able to win by a decent amount over the Raiders. And the Seahawks also had a rough start this weekend, but they were able to find their form towards the end of the game. Geno Smith got into a rhythm, and both of these teams had pretty solid wins for the week 1. I don't think that is enough to put either of them above 16 into that real top half position, but I think that they both played well enough to move above the Browns and the Falcons. Moving on, we have the playoff caliber teams. We have the Packers at 15, we have the Bengals at 14, we have the Buccaneers at 13, the Steelers at 12, and the Jets at 11. The Packers went down 7 spots this week. The reason why is because of Jordan Love's injury. This is a weekly power rankings, and so these are based off of which position the team is in for that week. I had the Packers at 8 preseason. I think that's a fair ranking. They played very well against the Eagles. They had a very strong performance. They were driving down the field to try and win the game when Jordan Love got injured. And that injury is supposed to last 3 to 6 weeks. I have no idea where they're going to be next week, how the team's going to look, what they're going to look like without Jordan Love under center. Their backup quarterback's decent, but he's not a great quarterback, and I think that Jordan Love is really what has made this team what it is over the last couple of years. They were kind of questionable when Aaron Rodgers was in this last season, and Jordan Love has really kind of brought them into their own again. They looked great last year, and then I think that they were looking good in that opener against the Eagles, but it just didn't work out with the injury. The Bengals are at 14. They've lost 2 positions with the loss to the Patriots. I almost put them below the Packers, but you can't really put Joe Burrow below the Packers without Jordan Love. So because of that, I'm keeping the Bengals at 14. If the Bengals lose another game next week, then they'll continue to drop. But one game, week 1, Joe Burrow never plays good week 1. It's week 1 Bengals. You can't expect them to play like the Bengals. So next week will be the real measuring stick for that team. At 13, we have the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers gained 3 positions this week. I undersold them a little bit in my preseason predictions. I thought that Baker had a phenomenal season last year. I didn't think he'd be able to replicate it. This week, they weren't playing a phenomenal team. They were playing against Washington. Washington is not the best team in the league. But Baker Mayfield had a phenomenal game. He had a 140 passer rating or whatever. He had 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had a great game. He played lights out. And so as of right now, I'm expecting them to be as good as they were towards the end of last season when they made the playoffs and were competitive in their playoff game. I think that they're going to be a competitive team. I don't think they're going to be all-world, but I think they'll be competitive, and I think that 13 is a fair spot for them. 12, we have the Steelers. The Steelers gained 3 positions this week. They beat the Falcons. The Falcons lost 7 positions because their offense didn't do anything. The Steelers' offense didn't do a whole lot, but they did enough to win, and the defense looked strong. I don't know how I feel about Justin Fields under center for the Steelers. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I hope that Russell Wilson can come back from his injury because I am a Russell Wilson supporter. But Justin Fields played well enough to win. He wasn't super efficient. The Steelers' offense was not very efficient, but they didn't turn the ball over. And so for the most part, the defense won the game. It was very similar to the Patriots game. I think a three-spot gain is relatively good for the Steelers with a win over a decent team. And then at number 11, we have the Jets. The Jets have not played yet. They play Monday Night Football. They are down 2 spots simply because other teams have passed them. Those 2 teams, namely being the Eagles and the Bills. I had the Eagles and the Bills below the Jets preseason because the Eagles and Bills had a very poor end to the season last year, and the Bills lost Stephon Diggs. So the Jets basically just re-lost those 2 spots, not because of anything that they did, just because the Eagles and the Bills regained their positions in the top 10. I was expecting that to happen to the Jets either way. If they do win tomorrow against the 49ers, then they will be back in the top 10, and the Rams will be bumped down to number 11. But for right now, number 11 is a fair spot for the Jets. Moving on to our playoff caliber teams, we have the Rams at number 10, we have the Eagles at number 9, we have the Bills at number 8, we have the Cowboys at 7, and we have the Dolphins at 6. The Rams lost this week to the Lions. It was expected. The Rams played well, but the Lions are just the better team. The Rams' offense looked how I expected it to look. Matthew Stafford was clicking with Nakua. Kyron Williams looked like Kyron Williams. The offense looked great. The defense could have played better, but that's expected when you're playing against the Lions. And overall, it was a solid game. I did have the Rams at 7. Part of that was because I didn't know what to expect from the Bills and the Eagles coming into week 1. And again, with the Cowboys are always great week 1, and then they kind of taper off, so I'm always hesitant to put them too high week 1. But with that being said, I think 10's a fair spot for the Rams right now. They played like a top 10 team, and then if they continue to play well, then they'll probably stay in the top 10. The Eagles are at 9 and the Bills are at 8. The Eagles gained 4 positions this week and the Bills gained 3 positions, and the Cowboys also gained 3 positions. The Eagles won a nice game against the Packers. Again, if Jordan Love was in during the last drive and didn't get injured, it may have been a different story, but the Eagles did have a comeback victory, which was very impressive. And then the Bills played a very close game against the Cardinals. The Cardinals came in with a lot of firepower. They have some new weapons this year. Kyler Murray's healthy the whole season. And they were able to hold off a defensive... They're not only able to come back from a large deficit, I believe 24-7, but they're able to build a lead on that. And then beyond that, they're able to stop a last drive comeback from the Cardinals. So the Bills played a phenomenal game. They played very well. And the biggest thing was Josh Allen played great. Josh Allen got multiple rushing touchdowns, multiple passing touchdowns. He looked like Josh Allen. He did not lose a beat with these new wide receivers. At number 3, we have the Cowboys. They looked like the Cowboys. They beat down on the Browns. Not much to say there. I'm more curious to see what they do week 2 and 3. But week 1 looked like the Cowboys. They looked like what Dak Prescott does, and they played a very solid game. And then at number 6, we have the Dolphins. The Dolphins beat the Jaguars. It wasn't a good enough win to move up in the power rankings, but it was a solid win. It was good enough to keep them at number 6. They beat Jacksonville. They were losing at the beginning. They were able to hold them to 0 points in the second half, and they were able to have a strong offensive performance, strong enough to win the game in the second half. Finally, we have our strong contenders. We have the Texans at 5, we have the Lions at 4, we have the 49ers at 3, we have the Ravens at 2, and we have the Chiefs at 1. Nobody in the top 5 has changed for this week. That's because the Ravens played Kansas City, so they played the best team in the league, and they lost. Anyone who plays Kansas City likely will not lose any positions if it's a close, tight game. Baltimore started off in the lead. They started off with a strong offensive performance. Kansas City came back. They did what they do. And then the Ravens had a chance to go down the field and win the game. And Lamar Jackson was behind on a pass to Zay Flowers, and then there was a touchdown that was completed that was called back by a penalty. The Ravens did what they could to win the game. It didn't work out, and they could have played better. They could have obviously closed out that drive and won the game, but it was a close enough game where I don't think I'm going to put them down any spots this week for losing. Kansas City obviously won. They were number 1, so they're not going to move any higher. The 49ers have not played yet. They're going to play during Monday Night Football. The Lions played a great game against the Rams. It was a nice, close, tight game. Great offensive performance all around. And then Houston was able to win a good divisional game against the Colts. So not much to be said here. These were my preseason top 5. They're still my top 5. And until they start losing to bad teams, they're going to continue to be my strong contenders. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm also going to have a link in the description for our Discord channel. We have a Discord channel for the Discord server for the YouTube channel. You can join that using the link. We're relatively active. We used to be more active, but we have a good community going. We have a fantasy football league, and so if you want to join, talk about football, we have people on there every Sunday, and it's a good time. So join that if you're interested. And if you have any content ideas that you want to see from me over the next week, please let me know, and I can try and see if I can get to them. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you all in the next one. Peace.